in the heart of America's oldest mountain range, a range of soft green hills and steep rocky cliffs, lies some 25 Ozark streams. The rivers are here from their spring origin, and they bend and twist and curve back on themselves during their swift descent to lower levels, as if reluctant to leave these Missouri hills. And who can blame them? For these are not mountains a man must stand off from and gaze at in awe. These are pleasant, water-coursed valleys and rounded hills, white with mist in the morning and blue with haze in the evening. No, a man doesn't stand off from the Ozarks. He can get right in there and live with them. What's more, one of the most unusual types of fishing in the world originated here. The Missouri Float trips, with their rare combination of unexcelled scenery, sparkling streams, and ever-changing fishing waters, draw anglers each year from the 48 states and foreign countries as well. The sharp bends of the rivers add a lot to float trips. You can fish for 2 days, covering 30 miles of water, and be only a few miles from where you started. Take a look at this horseshoe bend. A half day is needed to float the water in this scene, and yet it's less than half a mile overland at the narrow part of the neck. But let's go fishing. Here's the start of a 2-boat trip. Trucks hauled the boats, equipment, fishermen, and professional guides to this put-in spot. Many anglers who are familiar with the Ozark streams and are good rivermen as well bring their own boats or canoes, but the majority of trips are like this one. In any event, other people are needed to help both at the beginning and end of a float trip. The fishermen make last-minute checks of their tackle and lures. The sturdy, special-made boats carry well their loads of camping equipment and provisions. The helpers push, and they're off for a day, 2 days, or 2 weeks. Those first casts are just warm-ups, but you never can tell. Fishermen are always optimistic. The boats, which travel at about the speed of the current, make stable casting platforms. The rate of speed is fast enough to cover many miles of water a day, and yet slow enough to permit normal retrieving of the lures. The 2 boats will space out now with several hundred yards between them and reverse positions later in the day. Smallmouth bass, rated as one of the finest freshwater fishes in existence, are the principal fish taken with rod and reel in many of these Ozark streams. And sportsmen who've traveled the world over come here to catch the fighting, gamey bronzebacks. The goggle-eye, or rock bass, also frequents these cold, clear waters, and the largemouth bass, known locally as lineside, is found more commonly in the larger streams and in the slower stretches. Southpaw Fred Baker, using an underwater plug, casts toward a likely spot, the exposed roots of a tree. He reels in. No luck. Casts again, and this time he connects. It's a smallmouth, all right, and first score for him. Uh-oh, too bad. It can happen to anybody. Hub Ellis tries along a rocky ledge. The guide keeps the boat at an even distance from the edge of the bank, and incidentally adds a lot to the fishing pleasure. He's adept at maneuvering when you're trying to land a fish who wants to go anywhere but toward the boat. From long experience, he knows and will point out good places to cast, and he'll back up against the stiff current to salvage a lure which somehow got into an overhanging tree branch or snagged between 2 rocks. Les Purdom and Fred have switched to fly rods and topwater poppers. More and more float fishermen each year turn to the lighter tackle, but it's not a bad idea to take both kinds of casting rods on a several-day trip. Fred hooks and lands a little scrapper for the first fish of the trip. Here's an unusual shot for the camera. Fred and Les both get strikes at the same time in the quiet water just above a long chute. It happens occasionally, but not often in front of a camera lens. As they land their fish, the boat picks up speed, with the water rushing into a narrow, rocky riffle. There's good fishing both at the head and foot of, and in between these stretches of so-called white water. Hub, who throws a very nice fly line, is making some extremely long casts with a popping bug toward some half-submerged rocks below the camera's view. It's important on these small streams to be sure you have an open space behind you for the back cast. His persistence pays off, and he's tied into what looks like a heavyweight. But the way the smallmouth fights, you can't always tell when using light tackle. This fellow, submerging and dashing off on a long run, is bending the rod into a U shape. The guide is busy keeping the boat clear. And the fisherman? He doesn't know there's a thing else in the world except keeping that line taut and the fish on it. He's taking in his line now, with a game loser on the other end. That looks like a 2.5-pound grin on Hub's face. It's a beauty, all right. Float trips are not only an unmatched combination of beautiful scenery and fine fishing, they are a solution for those who want peaceful days away from the crowds and noises of the city. Since all the boats on a given stretch of water travel at the same speed, you may go for hours without seeing anyone except your own party. The boats are changing positions here, and it looks like someone just said, "Hey, are you doing any good?" And how's this for an answer? It's time for lunch, and you needn't worry about a restaurant. There's one on every gravel bar, if you furnish the food. While the fishermen stretch and dress their fly lines, a wise move since hundreds of casts have been made with them since morning, the guides prepare a lunch, and fishing temporarily takes second place to sandwiches and beans. The noon recess is hurried through, for there's fishing to be done. That bass you missed this morning may have a hungry brother waiting at the head of the next ripple. These streams have carried sport fishermen for more than 70 years, and no one knows for how many years the Indians and their canoes descended the same swift highways. Only their legends remain, built around such rocks as these. Water flecked with the careful drop of an artificial fly or the plunk of a deep-running plug is water once churned by log rafts from the Ozarks' fine timber stands, which can come back under good forestry management. The water is murkier in this lower stretch, and the bait rod is brought back into action. Hub flips the plug alongside a submerged log, and he's got one. It's largemouth bass water, and the undersurface movements of this rascal indicate he's a big fish. There's no dancing on the water here, just a powerful tugging of stubborn strength. The sturdy rod is bending in every fiber, and this fisherman has both hands full with his landing operations. When the fish nears the surface and the boat, he renews the struggle, and the reputation of the bass family as fighters in the first degree is upheld again. Think you'll go 5 pounds? Easy, says Hub, and never mind a prize for the biggest fish when I've got the fish. The guides, who know every gravel bar, are planning their campsite. The fishermen, of course, have other things to talk about. Some nice strings of fish, for example, as the two boats drift along together. The ever-useful gravel bar becomes an air-conditioned hotel, and steaks are fried to take care of hungry fishermen. These guides, with 40 years apiece on the river, are not only expert boatmen, but fine cooks as well. The meal over, and the bedding made ready, it's time for the campfire, and time for tall stories. There's no doubt but that these story fish are bigger and harder to land than those caught in the river just a little while ago. 8 hours gone already, and it's fishing time again. A few gallons of that cool water just a dozen yards away will perk those faces up and get the owners ready for, yep, it's breakfast. Eating is a fine habit, but then so is fishing. A second day begins, or it could be the third, or fourth, or fifth. Each new turn in the river opens another scenic vista, another stretch of smooth, deep pools or flashing riffles, another chance at a fighting, slashing bass. Let's leave our fishermen here in the midst of their angling enjoyment, for it's a float trip in the Ozarks.